Not exactly a clear day in the Chinese capital. Beijing has struggled on and off with smog and pollution for decades, and the cloud of haze that covered the city and the surrounding region this week filled the skies over as many as 100 million people. Beijing is one of the most polluted cities on Earth. Since 2015, when it declared a war on pollution, the Chinese government has taken steps to reduce emissions and move some industries out of the capital. And while it's seen some air quality improvement and blue sky days since then, Beijing's still located between industrial areas and deserts, and the way the wind blows can impact how the air looks. Relatively warm temperatures combined with high humidity are the unfavorable conditions that the city blames on this week's pollution. It hopes cooler weather in the days ahead will help clear away some smog. Hi, I'm Carl Azus with the A and the Z in the world from A to Z. Fridays are awesome. We're glad you could join us this November 3rd when bird is the word that you'll have heard by the end of today's show. But our next story concerns a site where many of you are watching today's show. YouTube is making some changes. One of them is that it's cracking down on ad blockers. There are software tools that have been developed to help users skip the ads. That's not allowed on the platform, so when the Google-owned company detects an ad blocker, it's going to give users three options: allow ads, pay for YouTube Premium to remove ads, or eventually stop watching videos on YouTube. Advertisements are an important source of revenue for YouTube, just like any other free online service, but analysts expect that people who hate ads will still look for ways to get around them without paying. Another change is to the videos YouTube recommends for young users. A large majority of people on the platform watch its recommended videos. Certain content that has to do with fitness, body image, and body types is now limited for teens. To be clear, this does not remove these kinds of videos from YouTube. It reduces the number of times the platform recommends them to young users. What the company's hoping to do is to reduce the chances that this content could potentially hurt young people's self-image. But what's unknown is whether changing its recommendations will have a significant impact.
A word of knowledge. Which of these laws was passed in 1966? Uniform Time Act, Gun Control Act, Voting Rights Act, Public Broadcasting Act. Enacted to establish consistent daylight savings time practices throughout the U.S., the Uniform Time Act was passed in 1966.
Unless you live in Hawaii or parts of Arizona, which don't observe daylight saving time, most Americans will see that act in action this weekend. The nation's falling back to standard time. That means that Sunday morning at 2 o'clock, watches and clocks should be set back to 1 o'clock a.m. Does it really mean an extra hour of sleep? Only if you go to bed at your usual time. Stay up an hour later, no guarantees. In the Northern Hemisphere, the amount of daytime daylight will continue to decrease until the winter solstice on December 31st, the shortest day of the year. Falling back this time of year means the time of sunrise is a little closer to when most people wake up. Especially during the two annual time changes, Americans debate whether they're still necessary or if daylight saving time really conserves energy like it was intended to do. But the nation continues to observe it on and off, in part because those who want to stop haven't come to an agreement on whether daylight saving time or standard time should be the permanent time. On this date in world history. ... Yeah, I'm alright. But that was the international distress signal in Morse code. Associated with the phrases "save our souls" or "save our ship," it was formally adopted by the International Radio Telegraph Conference in Berlin, Germany on November 3rd, 1906. On this date in 1957, a dog became the first animal launched into space. She was named Laika. She was aboard the Soviet Union's Sputnik 2 spacecraft. Laika did not survive the trip, but information gathered from the experiment was used to develop the first manned space mission, which the first cosmonaut did survive. And on November 3rd, 2014, One World Trade Center officially opened in New York City. The skyscraper was built at the site of the former World Trade Center, which was destroyed in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. One World Trade stretches 1,776 feet into the sky, the number of the year when the U.S. declared its independence. Today I learned that the California city of Merced is also known as the gateway to Yosemite. Plus, Merced is where you'll find El Capitan High School, named for the famous Yosemite rock formation, and El Capitan High School is where you'll find Coach Bartley's class, which totally rocks. From there, we're headed to Nebraska. At Norfolk Junior High School, we have Mrs. Bocce or Mrs. Bosch's class washing today, or is it Bochet? Either way, shout out to the folks in Norfolk.
There are going to be some big ups and downs this year when it comes to the cost of a traditional Thanksgiving meal. Turkey is expected to be more affordable. Last year, there was a wave of avian flu that killed a lot of birds, and when demand went up, in many places, so did prices. This year, farms reportedly have more turkeys available, and there's been a drop in the price of refrigerated transportation. So according to a new Thanksgiving report by Wells Fargo Bank, wholesale turkey prices were 29% lower this October than they were last October, and that could mean Americans will pay less for the basted bird in the weeks ahead. Unfortunately, the rest of the meal could be a lot more expensive. Wells Fargo's predicting that canned cranberries will cost almost 60% more this year than they did in 2022. But if you go for fresh cranberries, you can actually save 20% this year. Production costs for canned pumpkins are up 30% right now. That could spell out more expensive pumpkin pies. And russet potato prices are at a record. They're 14% higher this year, while store prices for sweet potatoes are up 4%, which should make them a more affordable side dish. Experts say Americans looking to save money ought to consider who's eating what. If there's a dish like, say, Aunt Zelda's green bean casserole that no one really goes near, maybe she gets a break this Thanksgiving, while other folks prepare the more popular side dishes. I'm Lindsay Wolfgang Mast for The World from A to Z.
While we're on the subject of birds, the bodies of some of these animals that have died are getting the chance to fly again. It's a research project where taxidermy meets technology, and it's taking place in the U.S. state of New Mexico.
Dead birds come alive again as drones, thanks to an engineering project at New Mexico Tech. Professor Mustafa Hassanalian wanted to learn from nature how to improve aviation efficiency. So he spent years studying flapping wing drones made of plastic and metal. Then he hit on the idea of using real bird bodies and feathers to provide better data.
And the only thing that we need to provide them to make them alive is to basically design an actuation mechanism, put in their body, and everything is there. So they have their tail, they have their wings, they have their head, the body, everything is there. So we do reverse engineering. We'll calculate what has been the weight of the bird while it was alive, what has been its flapping frequency, what flapping angle they have flapped, and just create something similar.
Hassanalian's engineering team would also love to send one of their bird drones into a live flock to study how the group conserves energy. But that's a long way off, so for now, they run experiments inside a wind cage. The professor has heard complaints about potential privacy concerns that his drones could be used by the military or for surveillance.
We cannot deny the application of this for other types of military types of application, but what we have been focused is mainly civil application.
Specifically, uses like wildlife management and monitoring birds. The project's next goal, figuring out how to make the taxidermy drones fly longer than their current 20-minute capability.
But how will living birds respond? Will they crane their heads and be like, "Fred, is that you? Or am I going cuckoo?" Some will mind their own business, some will jay away or flamingo somewhere else, some will wag tail and crow that they won't be pigeonholed into being sea-gullible. But if you're starting something new from the ground up, it's an awfully big-ed vulture and not an ostrich to make birds of a feather flock together again. I'm Carl Azus, spreading my wings on the world from A to Z, and we hope your weekend is looking up.